Is this really about making your workforce more empowered, or is it about trimming the workforce?
I think they're equipped to deal with a lot of things, but certainly this kind of change.
I didn't realize it was taking your 5,000 words so literally. What I like about this, when I think about why we do this, look, you can go and read. I skim, because they're usually not very interesting, but I skim scores and scores of articles every week about people like, hey, here's how I use AI to make $1 million. Here's how I use AI to save 5 hours a day, or whatever it is, right? And it's usually garbage. And it frustrates me, because if other people are reading this, they're going to look at this and go, yeah, why would I want to do this in my company? And so I think part of what I like is I want to show people how we use AI in a way that amplifies our ability to do work, but retains the authenticity of it's still work that comes from your mind and my mind, and it's our work product. Is that
right?
A fair goal?
That's 100% fair goal. Exactly it. I don't, look, you and I are, prior to doing this, when I wrote for, whether it's magazines or blogs or whatever it may be, or ebooks, and I've written countless of those, it was always a process. I sat and I wrote. That's what I did. I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and pour myself a coffee when my brain was clear, and I'd go write. So you and I kind of embarked on this project of, and if I recall correctly, we were sitting in a car going someplace, just, thinking about ideas that we thought were pretty cool, or things that we could possibly do. And we came up with the idea of putting together a book. Now, some might think that's a crazy idea. Why write a book? These things move fast, yada, yada. But we thought it was a good idea for a whole host of reasons. One, it was, from our perspective, it was good PR, we thought. It was something that we could hand off to people. And so, we kind of went on this journey. Let's see what it would really take to write a book using AI. And it wasn't, look, like you said, I wanted it to be really unique to us. I wanted it to be in our voice. I wanted it to be using our words. But it's just, we wanted to do it faster. And we wanted to get to the market faster, because we understood that time was value here, even though we haven't published it yet, that it was extremely important for us to do this. So, we went through this process of evaluating all the different foundation models that are out there, whether it's OpenAI or in ChatGPT, or Claude, Anthropic's Claude, or even Grok and Gemini. And, after testing a whole bunch of different cases and going through a number of permutations in each one over probably a couple of weeks, I'd say minimally, and then finally settled on using Anthropic's Claude, because the user interface, I think, was the most conducive to writing a book in a way that kind of worked through our way of wanting to do it.
Yeah. And I'm even going to say that I think at the end of the day, while we found the model that worked best for us, and that model may be different for other people, right? Like it was our style of how we wanted to do things. I think the secret sauce here is not what model we used, it's how we used it. It's how we integrated it into our workflow. So let's talk about sort of what was success for us. Because I think success for us was, you started that. You said, if we had to sit down and write this, manually, right? Get up an extra hour or two early every morning and spend an hour writing every day, it would have taken us 18 months to crank out a book. And what we looked at, it says, okay, we have been talking to each other and to other people for, at the time, it'd been a year and a half maybe of talking about AI to people, right? And because it is 5 and was 2024 before that, we have transcripts of most of those conversations, right? We have transcripts of our chats that we have when we're just talking to each other about ideas. We have transcripts of meetings where we've been brainstorming. We have discussions with collaborators and clients. We have things we've written, documents we've written that weren't meant to be a book, but were still capture our knowledge. And so part of the goal is, how do we take all of that? It's our work, it's our words, our work, our thoughts. But how do we accelerate the process of having to sit and turn that all into long form text? And that was really one of the big breakthroughs, was how do you do that and maintain your voice in doing that?
And that was one of the big lifts at the end of the day. That was sitting down and getting as much of that content into a form that I can now use in a model to start writing a book was obviously, it was a big part of it. So I remember asking you, Give me content you have. I remember going to our producer for this podcast and saying, hey, give me all the text transcriptions, all these podcasts, because, you're talking about probably well over 100 hours of content back and
Way
forth.
More.
And,
yeah,
exactly. Way more than that. All the stuff that we've written about AI over the past 2 years, like everything you said, and just getting all that information, putting it into a form now where we could effectively use it in a book was a big part of this job. But it was so important to you and me that this be our voice and not somebody else's, that this had to be done. There was no other way around this. I wasn't going to shortcut it, and nor was I going to we were going to tell everybody, well, this is a book that David and Peter wrote. I'm going to be honest, we use these tools to augment us so we can actually get it out the door. But it's still us. It's our voice. It's our information. It's all us. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us over on YouTube. And make sure to stay up to date with us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well.